time for the second chapter of the second episode of this season. So, as I previously mentioned it, there were a lot of human physiology studies carried out in different Andes locations, and with all of that, and with all of this amount of knowledge, Professor Elsworth Buskirk from the Human Performance Laboratory of Penn State University accepted the challenge thrown by Professor Paul Baker from the Anthropology laboratory or department from this university. And they started in the Andean summer of 1965 in the town of Nuñoa several studies in which 26 inhabitants from Nuñoa or Nuñoa rural areas, accompanied by 15 members of the Penn State University, 6 of them were top athletes from the track team, and 9 were scientist members and postgraduate students, started 3 different studies in this town from southern Peru at 4,000 meter elevation. So, these clinical physiology and exercise physiology studies conducted in Nuñoa were published in the Journal of Applied Physiology, 2 of these articles, and another article, the one that we are today addressing, was published in the Journal of Human Biology. So, the first article was focused on thermoregulation to an imposed cold condition at high altitude. And you can read the 4 entries in which I shared the findings of these articles in my blog, to be exactly in September 2024. The second article was published in 1967 and was focused on the performance after arriving from altitude, in this case from Nuñoa, from high altitude, and the performance that these athletes who were lowlanders, and they were representing the track and field team from Penn State University, the performance that they were getting or reaching at this high altitude environment. So this article was more important for the coaching community, who was aiming to get more knowledge for the Mexico Games, which will be held 3 years after this research was conducted in Nuñoa. The third article was a comparison article between the work capacity from highlanders who were residing in Nuñoa their entire life, and lowlanders who never were exposed at this type of hypoxic scenario. So this test or these protocols were carried out in a laboratory who was set in Nuñoa. They brought material as cycloergometers or devices, instruments that allow them to assess the gases exchange and oxygen production and CO2 production during different tests that they were performing. These tests were submaximal and test to exhaustion test, and they called to this laboratory the Pennsylvania State University Field Laboratory in the highlands of Peru. I have shared in 3 altitude collection infographics all the complete Nuñoa study series. So, Nuñoa research the studies conducted in Nuñoa between the 60s and late 70s were so rich in many biological fields, and there were involved well-known physiologists and researchers as Banchero, Picón Reátegui, Roberto Frisancho, who kept publishing different findings. But in 1969, it was when started the terrorist movement of Signing Path, which extended from 800 kilometers northwest Nuñoa in the Andean town of Ayacucho. It was extended down south to the Altiplano area as Nuñoa, Ayaviri, Puno, and so on. With so many deaths, American researchers did not find Nuñoa's safety, and sadly they decide never come back again. Another article, which was a review of the human physiology of the altitude studies, was published by the journal Scientific American in 1970, and a photography of one of the participants from the Nuñoa studies was shown. If we consider that these participants, according to the published data, were 18 years old by that time, I took the decision to travel to Peru, do a training camp, and do my best to meet any of these participants. I hope you have liked or enjoyed this chapter, this really brief chapter, or really short chapter of this altitude collection infographics video blog. In the next one, I'm going to tell you how was one of the 2 meetings I had last summer with one participant of the Nuñoa studies. So don't lose it, because that was so joyful.